Hello everybody. We're here. Hi. Look at the people coming in. So hello everyone. A massive turnout of sign-ups of people today chatting away. So welcome along to this local search clinic. And so today we're going to be speaking all about Google Business Profile Optimization with our lovely guest Joy, who is here with me now.
Hi guys.
The aim is to get through as many questions as possible. So if you use the ask a question bit in the toolbar at the bottom with your burning questions, so come up with the best questions that you can think of that are going to help everyone be nice and clear. And then if we can have people upvoting other people's questions, we're going to try and get through as many as we possibly can. So the more clear and succinct and useful your questions will be, the better. So get writing those now. So we'll do a quick intro. Hello and welcome. I am Claire Carlile. I am the local search expert at BrightLocal. I'm also a chartered marketer at Claire Carlile Marketing. And today, very lucky to have the very splendid Joy Hawkins here from Sterling Sky. So if you don't know who Joy is, then have you been like hiding under a rock somewhere? But Joy is going to introduce herself now.
All right, so I'm Joy. I've been working in local SEO since 2006, and I run an agency called Sterling Sky over in the US and Canada. We deal with local SEO. Also the owner of Local U, which puts on marketing conferences for local SEO topics, the local search forum. And then I'm also, in my spare time, a volunteer as a part of Google's product expert program. We basically help moderate their forums when people have questions and things they need help with for their Google business profiles.
Basically, Joy knows all the things. And we have all learned so many things from her. Basically, I'd like her brain, put it in here. That would be lovely. But this is your chance. This is your chance to get into Joy's brain. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have a little click into the questions and we will see who's got some upvotes. Okay. You'll love this, Joy. Oh, something else has popped in above. How effective, asked Paul Stevens, are owner asked questions in the question and answer section? And does it make sense to use keywords in owner questions and answers?
So, I mean, I don't know if I'd say they're effective. They look pretty. It's kind of hard to say what they do, like what actually comes of it, but I would label it as a low impact strategy. So something that if it takes you 5 minutes, do it, but I wouldn't spend lots of time and effort thinking about it. I would suggest putting keywords in there because when people are searching on Google and it matches like a question that has been asked, sometimes that gets pulled in onto the listing when you're in what we call the local finder. So when you have a long list of businesses popped up, we've seen Google sometimes match questions to search queries. So it can help with that, but it doesn't impact ranking.
Brilliant. Thank you. This is the one. What are your thoughts? Now this says geotagged posts, but I think it might mean geotagged photos.
Yeah, I feel like we get this question every single webinar I do, but I have an article on it. Yeah, there is an article on the Sterling Sky blog, so you can pull it up. We did a test on geotagging images last year because it was just like one of those things that constantly comes up, but I wanted to actually have some examples to back up my thoughts on it. But in a nutshell, geotagging photos is a big waste of time. Like it doesn't do anything, doesn't help Google better understand the image. They already know it's an image of that place because you're literally adding it to a listing that has a pin on it. So yeah, spend your time doing something else.
Don't do it. You heard it here first and second and third and fourth. Okay, right. Here's one. Do you have any tips on how to rank, it's disappeared, a service area business faster?
Oh, yeah, I mean, you're limited by your area, so there's no way to get around that. Like, if you're in Phoenix, you're going to rank in Phoenix, and you're not going to rank in Scottsdale. So that's something to always keep in mind. I've seen a lot of service area businesses succeed at kind of taking sort of like a franchise model, but like actually building out legitimate locations. It doesn't cost an arm and a leg and can be well worth it if you have a high cost of sale. So, something to look into, actually getting some offices that are in your target cities. That's honestly like the best strategy long-term, better than any others that I've run across.
Brilliant. Again, just remember in the chat, if you're jotting questions down in the chat, then ask them in the Q&A. Don't forget to, I don't know if you can read that. Is that back to front? Who knows? I can't tell. Okay, so another question. Have you had trouble getting Google to respond to emails? I've had a client's listing suspended for months, but I can't get in touch with Google to respond beyond your queries being escalated to our specialist team, which will perform a thorough investigation. What can I do? That's from Emma.
Yeah, it's frustrating. So we've definitely had that happen where like some reinstatements get reinstated immediately and it's really fast and easy. And then you have some that just take forever. And, I can't tell you what goes on behind the scenes, but there's definitely different things that cause suspensions. And depending on what thing caused your suspension, sometimes they take longer to resolve. As an action item, I would probably suggest going to the Google Business Profile community and posting a thread there. Mention the case ID. So you should have your case ID from when you submitted the reinstatement form. Mention when you sent it in, the details of your business, and then all the proof, right? So include like your storefront photos or like licenses or whatever. And then one of the product experts there should be able to escalate it and at least see. And that might help speed it up. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but at least we can get some insight into like if it's a technical issue or something that's slowing it down.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Thank you. And this is from Kyle. What do you think is the single most important factor in helping your Google My Business profile rank higher in the maps?
Well, I mean, if you want to be spammy, just stuff keywords in your business name and that'll get you ranked overnight.
Yeah.
No, joking. A single thing I'd probably say would be the title tag of your, whatever the pages that you're linking your Google Business profile to. That's probably the biggest impact item that you can easily influence.
There we are. There we go. Next one, we have got Paul Stevens. What are the most valuable local links?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. We're actually doing some studies right now, so I don't have like conclusions on it yet on just the impacts of different types of links. I can tell you, spoiler alert, guest posting, like I should kind of clarify, that's a pretty broad term, but like, the guest posting services where you go and you buy them and they always label themselves as white hat, and there's lots of them out there. We definitely tested a few of them on a burner site, a site we don't care about. And just to see like if anything happens, like they made no impact. I spent quite a bit of money buying those and those did not help. So I would say if you are going to look at local links, I would focus on, obviously the directories that actually rank on Google. So if you're a lawyer, things like Avo, lawyers.com, Martindale, etc. So look to see what actually ranks, and that's where you should put your money. And anything above and beyond that, I would say, networking with other businesses in your area. Like if you are a plumber and you have a realtor that sends you business and vice versa, like give each other a testimonial and put them on your websites or things like that. There's a lot of natural ways to get links from other local businesses.
Brilliant. Thank you. Don't forget to upvote the questions, because you'll probably find that there's probably one in there that is going to be the one that you want to ask yourself. So we've got upvotes on the questions up to about 5, but there's loads of you in here. So upvote the questions so they pop up to the top. We got another one from Josh. Are citations still important for affecting local SEO? If so, is it more important to go after domains that have higher authority and provide a follow link rather than one that provides a no follow?
Yeah, so my views on citations are basically they're important if they actually get traffic. So Yelp, for example, is a very important citation because people actually go to Yelp. Yelp actually gets traffic, and Yelp ranks for a branded search. So you want to know what citations matter, search your business name, maybe add the city on the end, depending on what your name is, and then check the first maybe page and a half of search results. Those are the ones you should care about. And then maybe do the same thing for competitors. And then see, again, page 1, maybe half of page 2, if there's any there that you're missing out on. Anything above and beyond that, with the exception of maybe Apple Maps, which doesn't really rank on Google, but is still important. We don't really do a whole lot with citations anymore. But I would say it's important to have like correct information for like businesses that have moved or new offices and stuff, just so people know how to get to you. Like that's, or, have the right phone number.
And aggregators?
We don't do a whole lot with aggregators anymore. I feel like they're kind of on their way out, with Axiom dying a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, whatever that was. And I know, I don't even know what it's called anymore. Express Update. It changed from Info USA to Express Update. Now it is a different name, and I can't even keep them all straight anymore. But that one usually we will check because that one still feeds to a few authoritative sites. But I can't say that we really care about like Foursquare or like Factual or some of the other ones that have been deemed data aggregators.
Cool.
Data Axle. That's it. Yes. Thank you, Fred. Can't remember. They keep changing.
My favorite rock band, actually. I love them. We've got one from Donnie. How much attention does Google pay to using city or zip code in blog posts for ranking?
I mean, so if you are, let's say you're a personal injury lawyer in Dallas, I mean, if you're trying to rank for personal injury lawyer in Dallas, you're probably targeting that keyword on your homepage. So putting that in your blogs isn't really something I would suggest doing. Unless you're trying to, drive links to other pages on your site using anchor text. But usually when you're coming up with content as a strategy, you're looking to target keywords that you don't already rank for or things that don't currently show your website when people are searching for them. So I would say most cases, from what I'm kind of understanding with the questions, I would say it's not important. But you don't need like 15 pages that all say the same keyword.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on from Amy. So it's a lovely keyword stuffing question. What are your thoughts on including reasonable and relevant keywords in business names? It's a technical violation of Google's guidelines to be competitive, it seems like a successful tactic to rank higher.
Oh man. I'm not opposed to it. I think there is such thing as reasonable descriptors. I remember years ago, there was a big debate over, I think it was Apple that was doing, like they would actually name their stores like Apple New York City and Apple store in like certain parts of Manhattan. So there'd be like a Manhattan one, a Staten Island one. And like, it was the argument of like, is this useful? Is this spammy? And I think it's like a fine line, but in Apple's case, I never thought it was spammy. I think they were actually doing it to try and be useful. So I do think that there are times, and I can tell you with certainty that like I literally had our listing that got reinstated like 2 weeks ago that had descriptors in it. So I mean, Google, it's not a policy that Google like really hammers down on, but I would be wary. Like if I was an agency, I wouldn't go in and just starting adding descriptors to every single client. Like that would look a little like the volume of that could get your account possibly looked at. So yeah, brilliant. Agency, you have to be careful.
Yeah. And everything starts to look completely the same, doesn't it? Even if you do it legally, it's just like, where is the branding here?
You have to have branding.
There was a really good one. Where's that gone? I like this. This could have been my question. Since Google has been pulling in services from websites or goodness knows where else into Google Business Profile, is it worth it to keep fighting it and deleting it week by week because it keeps coming back? Because Kim is finding that her clients have got huge lists of services that are overwhelming. And personally, I have clients showing stuff that they don't even offer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was literally... So like right before this, I was doing an audit on a personal injury lawyer and they had like life insurance listed as a service. I'm like, clearly they don't offer life insurance. That's something that Google scraped from their site and added to their listing. So I definitely recommend they delete it. But like, again, not a high impact thing. Something I would do periodically, would not be like, oh my gosh, we have to do this every month and monitor and like, I wouldn't stress about it. Google is aware for certain categories. Like it's kind of the one I was looking at this morning was nursing home abuse neglect. Like, so lawyers that deal with people that have been abused in nursing homes. And like when you search like nursing home abuse lawyer near me, it's like all the search results say they provide nursing home neglect. It's bad.
Like, yeah, that's what we want.
Yes, not what you want. So like, that's the worst case scenario. Like somebody can see that in the search results and you don't want that message, but likeliness is your competitors are in the same boat as you. So I guess I would say, monitor it every so often, but I wouldn't put it as a high priority. And also if you delete something, it should not come back. So Google has something in place there to make sure that once you delete it, it's not just going to get re-scraped off your site next month and then come back again.
Cool. Well, that's interesting because I keep getting the same thing scraped over and over and over again. So maybe we can screenshot that and bring it to the forum.
Sure, yeah, because that's what they told us, right? So
it's not true.
Oh, wait, Google says things that aren't true. You don't say.
I can't believe it. I'm very disappointed. Yeah. What have we got here? We have got from Matt. I think we've covered that. Let's have a look. Or someone saying, do the services affect rankings?
No, they don't. We have I think a blog on our website about that one as well. We did a test on that.
So useful, but not affecting rankings potentially. Any good advice on getting more reviews apart from asking for them?
Yeah, big thing that I've seen amongst clients recently is incentivizing staff. So that's something that, disclaimer here, I'm not a lawyer. So if there's like certain industries where you're not allowed to do that, that's very possible. We see it's really common with industries like real estate. So lots of realtors will do this because, if they sell a home, they make a lot of money on that home. So it is well worth it for them to pay their employees, $100 gift card, $50 gift card, whatever, to get a review. Now that being said, they're still supposed to be from people that had customer experiences with you. But one thing to keep in mind is like Google does not make it a requirement that the person had to actually done business there. As long as they had a customer experience, which could be like in a realtor's case, if they call you, but then they don't end up actually hiring you, or like they're just looking for information to maybe sell their home like a couple years from now, that still qualifies. They still had a customer experience. They're still looking to utilize you in a professional way and stuff. So I think that's probably the one that I've seen work the best. Really getting your team on board and trying to kind of drive that from within, make them care as much as you care.
Brilliant. Thank you. Just a reminder that there is a bar at the bottom of your screen that says ask a question. So try not to write questions in the chat. If you just pop them in the question box, that would be super duper. And don't forget to upvote them. We've got 11 votes on this one. How important are Google posts in regard to SEO, Joy?
Yeah, so they're more important in certain industries than others. So for example, we had an RV resort that we were working on. It actually gets like activity on their posts. Like they get clicks. The personal injury lawyer I was talking about that I was just doing an audit for, like nothing. Like I was looking at their posts and they get, like 60 views and 0 clicks. And like they're posting weekly. And I'm like, okay, that's a lot of time and effort to come up with a post every week. Let's say it takes you 10, even 15 minutes doing that weekly. You could spend that 15 minutes doing something else that would likely have a higher impact. So depending on your industry, I'd say like, look at your posts, see if they actually get any clicks or actually drive any traffic. And if they don't, I would say, do a offer post once a month, have it stay up for the full month, and then put that effort elsewhere. Especially if you don't have anything new to say. Like if you're, in a retail store and you constantly have new specials and promotions, then like maybe you need to utilize posts more often. But like for an insurance agent or like a lawyer, like nothing's changing. So
can you remind everyone how long like a What's New post stays live for?
Yeah, so that changed. We have a large, I think it's on our blog somewhere, a large study on Google Posts that we did, but it used to be like it only stayed live for 7 days, and now it just sticks there until there's like a newer one. And I think it's 6 months. I can't remember. We did like actually track the number of days, and I put that on our blog, but I think it was like 6 months or something like that.
And I'm doing that naughty thing where I'm adding my question again. How, if it's pulling in a post for a justification, is that the same 6 month time frame, or could it be even longer?
No, it was less. Dang it. I'm like trying to remember. It's definitely on our site. We published all this because
I can remember reading it. I just thought it's very relevant.
We used BrightLocal because of the screenshots, and I checked like every stinking day. I wanted to know the exact number of days that it stayed live. And so we actually do have that number. I just tried to remember it off the top of my head, but I think it was like 3 months or something.
Yeah. I think I used your data. Jenny's just linked to the post on the BrightLocal website, which says, but it's always good to know these things. A really good question here. It's quite a long one, so I'm going to try and it's from Mark, and he is talking about photos, and we know that they're important. So he is talking in particular about virtual tours and their importance. And he's saying the Street View trusted program is not accepting new applicants, and many of the low production photographers have been removed. So what remains are better photographers. have you measured and compared the impact of virtual tour images to others? I don't know. It's a multi-layered question, but what do we know about these tours?
Not a whole lot, to be honest. Like I always say, virtual tours are a great value add because of the photos that you get when you pay the photographer. So more so than the virtual tour, I would say. But like the fact that you get a whole photo shoot of your staff, you might as well use a Google photographer so that they can, do both at once, since you're going to hire a photographer anyways. I think it is, again, based on the industry, right? Like I've had cases where like I was traveling and I wanted to go to this toy store to get my kids a present. And I totally use the virtual tour as a thing to see, like, what do they have anything good in the store that my kids are going to like? So like, it's super valuable for that. And I do it for like board game stores all the time because I'm like a huge board game nerd. And so I'll like look to see like what kinds of board games do they have. So I'll look in, but again, more for retail. If you're a lawyer or a plumber, I don't think anyone cares about the inside of your shop, but it still wouldn't hurt to have it there. And if you're in a spammy industry, I almost always recommend it. So like if you're in the garage door space, for example, and you have a storefront, absolutely get it, because if your listing ever gets suspended, that'll help you get reinstated faster. So that's another use for it.
Brilliant. I'm going to come back to that, but I just want to remind everyone, because they're asking in the chat, that this is recorded and it's pretty much live, I think, straight after we finish. So there will be a recording of this. So don't worry if you need to dash off now. I was going to ask you one question about the virtual tours. Does Google give us any information about how many times those are viewed or how they are used?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually don't know. I haven't looked inside the dashboard, but usually like the images have like view counts on them. So I'd say that would apply likely to the tours as well. Yeah. I can't say I've ever looked though at that as like, we don't work with a lot of retail businesses. So I feel like the industries that it matters for, we don't have much experience with.
Right. Okie dokie. Thank you. This is a good one. Talking about, this is from Hannah, practitioner listings, which used to be very recommended. And she's saying during the last local U, maybe you mentioned that it might not be in the best interest to build out practitioner listings. So where are we with practitioner listings?
Really varies based on the industry. So like an industry that we generally don't do them in, for example, would be lawyers or realtors. Generally, we don't. However, in like for our dentists, we definitely still do. So it depends on how many categories, they have for a particular industry. Why it works so well in dental is because there's like, I think 15 categories now that apply to dentists. I can't remember, but there's more categories than there even is available on your listing. So usually in that space, we 100% want to do practitioner listings. And then in other spaces, like Google sometimes creates them without you anyways. So knowing they exist and looking for them is always a good idea. We see that a lot when we're doing audits for like realtors. They have no clue how many exist already for their team.
What would you say is the difference between a law practitioner and a dental practitioner that would make you not do them anymore for law?
The categories. So like, if you're dealing with a criminal lawyer, let's say, they've got like one category really that matters, which is criminal law or whatever, criminal defense lawyer. And they don't have other categories really that would be applicable. Whereas like a dentist, you'd have like teeth whitening, you've had dental implants, you have cosmetic dentists, you have dentists, like so many.
Yeah. So lovely. Lots and lots of categories basically for dental. Brilliant.
Yeah.
What have we got here? This is interesting, Rob. How many categories is ideal on a Google business profile?
As many as are relevant. So you don't want to, So I was actually doing some work on a garage door repair business the other day and was looking at the category home improvement store, because technically some of the stuff that they do falls under home improvements, but it's generic. So I'm like, we're going to test this out and see how it goes adding it on, because some of the keywords you want to target actually do fall under home improvement as the category, but you're also probably going to get some stuff that's not relevant. So you might get some calls for things you don't do. So that's always the thing to keep in mind with categories. If you get too generic, that's the downside. We've never seen anything where like, category dilution isn't a thing. Like as long as the categories are relevant and similar and you're not claiming to, be a insurance agent and then also a real estate agent, which might be a little confusing, you should be totally fine.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. One from Avinash, which says, are there any new features in GMB that have been added recently that you would say are helpful?
Not really. Like I know 2 years ago, man, they were like rolling out features like crazy, but lately it's been mainly attributes, and like the ones they've been adding aren't super widely available. So other than that, there really hasn't been anything crazy that I would say is super important.
Okay. We've done that one. Let's have a look. Don't forget to upvote these questions, and don't forget to add more questions, please. We've done that one. We don't sell products online. This is from Jennifer, but have built out products and categories with images and descriptions. Is it worth the time to keep these updated?
No. Simple answer. We actually, again, have another blog on this, but Colin actually tested this. Like he was basing it on activity. Like, do these things get any clicks? We used UTM codes on them, like all that stuff. And the kind of short answer was that if you don't actually sell products, then no, they don't generally get clicked on. So we had a home security client that actually did have some traffic from their products because they actually sell products. But like comparing it to our service-based clients, they didn't get much activity. It's pretty, they look nice. So it's probably worth doing, but not something I would keep up with monthly.
Okay, so we've got another one here from Nikki, which is about reviews. It's quite long, so I'm going to read it and see. Oh, it's disappeared down there. I'm going to see if I can make it short and sweet. Oh, it's disappeared for some reason, I'm sure. Oh, no, there it is. Can we please let's discuss Google's review spam filters. So multiple clients, they've got reviews that have gone missing or never shown up, and they're not having much luck with Google support. So support says sometimes this happens. Sorry. What would you say to small businesses that was having a problem like that?
Yeah, so I would suggest going to the Google Business Profile community again, posting there. What we would need in order to actually ask Google about it is screenshots, which is really annoying because they're like, you have to chase down people and actually get them to send you a screenshot while logged in. But if you have a screenshot or two of the missing reviews or the names of the people that left the reviews, those are the main things that we would need. I want to say like probably 70% of the ones that I escalate on there, Google does actually reinstate the reviews. So not all of them, but a good chunk. And it's definitely worth bringing up. But I've gotten the same response with email support. Like you email Google, they give you a canned response. So I don't know why we get different responses on the Google business community. Like it's weird. We should probably get the same response, but we don't. So that's where I would go.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And we have got here, so basic, beginner, what are the foundational aspects of what they need to do?
For the reviews thing?
No, this is just a generic Google Business Profile. What are the most important things that they should do first as a beginner?
Oh man. Okay. Categories probably are huge. Reviews, I would say as well. Reviews are, I think, more of a conversion thing. So can't tell you how many times I do audits on businesses where they are killing it with the most reviews in the market. Like, and I mean, really killing it. Like the one I was looking at this morning, they have like 600, and I think the guy next to them has 200. So it is not like Google doesn't rank businesses based on who has the most reviews. So you got to keep that in mind. But if you're ranking and you are competing with somebody that's got way more reviews than you would do, that is a problem. That's going to hurt your click-through rate, which eventually will hurt ranking. So reviews are really important. And then I'd say your website, like your website is the number one thing that you can utilize regularly to influence where you rank on Google.
Brilliant. Thank you. And this is from Marcella. For multi-location businesses, is a location page better for the Google Business Profile URL?
Sometimes. And I hate saying that. Like, I know it's like the SEO answer, but like, I can't say we have consistent results at all for this. So I've seen cases where for certain industries that have like a really solid money, what we call a money keyword, where it's like that one keyword, we know that thing converts and we want to make sure they rank for that above all else. In cases like that, sometimes we don't use the homepage. We will use a very specific page on the site that's really optimized for that keyword, and it does way better. In other cases where it's like more stuff, the homepage makes more sense. And location pages also could make more sense if your homepage is not optimized for that location that you're trying to rank for. So it does vary based on the scenario, and either of those three options, you can test it really easily too.
Yeah, so testing is super. A little, Alicia, what prompts verification through email or phone versus postcard?
Yeah, it's just basically how much data Google has on that stuff, right? So if you're using a brand new phone number, you're probably not going to get phone as a verification option. It's not something that I'd say I know a lot about how to manipulate it, because usually we just go with whatever shows up. But definitely if they've got a lot of history on like either the location or the number, there's something there that Google looks at, but it's not something that you'd be able to see.
I've got one here from Julia. It's not super clear because it's actually more to do with on-site stuff, but I have a client with 8 branches and I currently have 1 page per branch. And now I'm going to build out 3 to 5 pages each. Is this a good idea or a waste of time?
So I'm assuming we're talking about like pages on the website?
Yeah, no, I think it's more of yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I actually got this question on Twitter yesterday, I think. So usually it is. It depends on the search volume, right? Like if you're talking about, let's use a plumber example. We've got lots of HVAC clients. So like if you're in HVAC and you have air conditioning, you have furnace keywords, and you have plumbing keywords, and let's say you've got 2 locations, then you absolutely would want all 3 of those pages for each location. So you'd want a plumbing page for one location and then another plumbing page for the other location. So the reason why it's, important for that specific scenario is that the volume those keywords get, like it's really high, the search volume. We've seen other cases where like, if it's like a really low search volume keyword, or if you're trying to build out 50 of those pages, that could be challenging. And then you'll find the pages get no traffic or the keywords get no traffic. So
awesome.
Usually we think it's good though.
Cool. I'm sure we are going to have an on-site session like this. So if you've got any more questions like that, save them up for the next one. Where was that question? It was Andy. You've just fallen down. There we are. So from our friend Andy, I like this. This is really good. FTC question. Here in the US, can I use Google review snippets as quotes within my page copy?
Oh my God. Okay. I am not a lawyer. So like asking me FTC questions is like, thanks, Andy. I would say like, as far as I know, there's no issue, but like, don't quote me on that. Don't make your decision based on me saying that. I would absolutely, ask a lawyer that question, but I don't know of any issue with it. I think like Mike's talk at Local U recently was all about this topic. So I know you were there, Andy, so you can like watch his talk on it, because he dove into that a lot. But I think the main takeaway that I got from his talk is like the FTC is looking for people that are misleading, right? People that are like trying to say that we're a 5-star company when really they're not a 5-star company. And they're going after, I think as well, like bigger companies. So keep that all in mind. But I do it all the time. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but definitely don't base your decisions on me.
Yeah. Yes, do that. So this is one from Cordell, which is interesting. We've had some issues with Google not letting us update information for some of our clients. So they'll add a new phone number, then it gets removed and replaced with the old one. Is there a way to get this issue resolved?
Yes. So if you've recently verified a listing, you can't change the phone number on it. We actually had this happen like very recently to a dentist listing that I claimed. So the guy used to work somewhere else, now works, at a new office, and I'm trying to get a hold of this listing, and it's tricky because the address is wrong and the phone number is wrong. So I was able to get the address changed before I claimed it. So at least we got the postcard, but then we have an incorrect phone number. And then because the listing was recently claimed, we can't edit the phone number. Like I actually did a video and sent it to Google, and I was like, this is the worst experience ever. You guys need to fix this. Because like literally I'd go in and try to change the number and it would just throw a red error, but it wouldn't tell me what the error was about. So the way around it is you can contact G&B support, and I'm still going to call it G&B support because GBP support sounds terrible. You can contact support and they should be able to manually change the number. Now, keep in mind, you will need like some type of proof of the number to show them. So like make sure you have a page on the website that shows the number, like clearly shows the address that matches the listing, all that jazz. But support will be able to manually change it for you.
Fabulous. Okay, don't forget to upvote your favorite questions in here. I am looking and I can see, this is interesting. From Sue, how do you verify a location that is in a building that is being constructed and the tenant isn't in yet?
Yes. So it's annoying. Basically, you have to request a postcard. When it doesn't arrive, request a second postcard. When that doesn't arrive, you can reach out to support and they can do a manual verification. And so, yeah, it's like takes a few weeks to go through all that.
Can they verify a location that doesn't exist though? How does that work?
Oh. Yeah, they allow you, I think it's 90 days, I believe. Man, I'm really having questions of my knowledge here. I think it's 90 days that you're allowed to create. So like if you have a restaurant that's opening in 90 days, you can create it and you can specifically say on the profile, like the opening date is, June of 2022. That's fully allowed. So I usually suggest it just to stay on top of things if you know something's coming.
Okie dokie. Brilliant. Thank you. Let's have a little look at these. If only, this is from Celeste, if only one verification method is listed, but you won't be able to successfully complete verification using that method, how can you get an additional verification method?
Yeah, so same exact answer. You have to contact support because this happens all the time with phone trees. If phone verification is the only option, and you need it changed to postcard, then the only way to do that is to contact support. But if it's a postcard issue and like say you don't accept mail at your building and you know that the only option is postcard, you still have to do what I said earlier. You have to request a postcard, wait for it not to arrive, request a second one. Support won't talk to you unless you've had two not arrive. It's so annoying, but it's just the way it is.
Okay. There. So be patient and just jump through all the hoops. This is really interesting from David, talking about reviews and when you leave additional reviews after you've left the first one, the fact that Google won't treat them as separate reviews. So he's saying when a returning client does a second review, Google eliminates or removes the first review and posts the reply from the first review on the second review. And sometimes that doesn't make sense. What can we do about this to make it better?
Yeah, this is why reputation management is always important, right? You want to know when somebody updates the review. And I want to say Google doesn't even alert you. Like, I don't think they send an email alert to my knowledge, but I think like a lot of reputation companies will alert you. Like, so this is common because you can't leave two reviews for the same place. So I did this recently. I updated a review I left for a ski resort because they were great, but their last winter and their policies around COVID were terrible, like absolutely terrible. So customer experience there was very different this last year compared to before. So I absolutely went and updated my review and they got alerted somehow for sure because they emailed me about it. So definitely like there should be a way to get an alert, which a lot of like reputation management software would likely do. I don't know, Claire, if BrightLocals does that or not. But you should be able to get alerted and then you could update. That was what?
Jenny will tell me now.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Trisha in the chat is just saying, I've had Google prompt me to update my review after visiting a place again.
Yeah.
I had that as well.
Same.
Saying, well, you've already been to this place, you've left a review, you want to update it. So
yeah.
So
Google is starting to do that. So you might see more of this. One thing that's really frustrating is we've had this happen a few times where somebody leaves a negative review and then they keep updating it so that it stays current and it stays closer to the top of the page.
Okay.
And actually wrote an article at Local U about that. I think last year, Google won't remove it. Like that to them is not spammy and it's pisses me off. Like, I'm just like, that should be a problem. Like how is that not spammy? Like this person has clearly got a vendetta. They're not doing it to be helpful. They're just doing it because they're trying to trash this business's reputation. And that seems wrong to me. So I think Google is way off on that policy.
Reviews are really tricky, aren't they? Generally, the way that the functionality works, and you're just like, this doesn't make sense. It's like, yeah, well, there we are. There's not much I can do about that. So, Jeff, this is a question. Tell us about GBP websites. Are they worth using or bothering with?
No, I mean, I wouldn't even bother if you have a website. I think that they're great for, the plumber that works out of his house and has no marketing budget and just wants something listed on his listing. And like, great. Like we see this all the time with people in the handyman space. So we have like a handyman client and a lot of their competitors are using GMB websites because they don't have actual websites. But if you have like a full blown website, like I can't see a reason for why you'd even care about creating the other one.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant, thank you. And interesting, Teresa, for service area business, is there an impact on activity by not having a pin showing in the map?
Oh, that's the question we've been trying to ask for years. Yeah, it's there was a thread on the local search forum a couple of years ago that was very active that got a lot of responses about the negative impacts of switching from having a pin to not having a pin. And a lot of people chimed in, like a huge variety of different people. They are all saying the same thing, that it actually had a negative impact on performance. We've never done it. So I don't have a case of a client where like we've switched them one way or another where I could actually measure what happened. So I'm kind of leaning on this thread from 2 years ago. So I don't even know if it's still relevant. But a lot of people seemed adamant that there was a difference. I know from a visibility perspective, you don't get like placed on the map, right? So that's kind of crappy. But like, I'd say it's not something I would stress about or worry too much about. And I unfortunately don't have any actual experience doing it. So not really sure.
Yeah, I guess it is what it is. And if you're a service area business, you need to stay within like the guidelines. So you'll just have to deal with not having a map pin. So, you know, it's difficult.
I mean, if you're comfortable showing your home, go ahead and have a map pin. But like most people aren't, right? So that's where it's like, we don't have a map pin showing my home for Sterling Sky.
No. Because I'll be knocking on the door. Hi, Joy. I've got something for you. Let's have a little scroll through. Don't forget to upvote your favorite questions in here. Try and make sure that they are about Google Business Profile, because we're getting some other bits and bobs popping in here. We've done that one. Yes, we've had that. Yes, we've done that one. What's this? I'm not sure what that means. Okay. We've had that. Are stock photos, this is from Josiah, are stock photos okay to use in the product section?
They're okay, but I wouldn't. Stock photos are like the least performing type of photo that you can use. So we definitely tested this in our Google Post study, like how to post perform the stock photos versus non-stock photos. And by a landslide that it was way better without stock photos. Same deal with ranking. So we have done tests on images with ranking and how images impact ranking on, and to be clear, we're talking about images on your website for this. So using stock photos as an image on your website versus non-stock photos that are, actually describing or showing whatever it is that matches the search query. Images can impact ranking for sure on your site. So I would say getting photos from the business is really essential, really important, especially if you're like, in home services, this is super important. So like for my lawn care client that I talk about all the time, having pictures of lawns before and after, showing problems, stuff like that. It's like not only just helps ranking, but it helps conversions. It helps all around. I hate stock photos.
We all hate stock photos. Man laughing at salad. Yes. One on monitoring from Adam. If you are monitoring a GBP profile for a brick and mortar business, what would be the top 3 aspects to look at? So he's talking about monitoring, but he's also talking about optimizing. So let's start with the monitoring bit. So if you're monitoring, what are the main 3 things that you should be monitoring?
Well, reviews. I mean, we monitor rankings pretty regularly, so that's something I keep an eye on. And just to be clear with rankings, I feel like it's a slippery slope because it is not the metric we report on to clients. Like it's not our primary metric. We are very leads based. Like I want to increase your leads. I don't care about your rankings. But behind the scenes, if we want to know what tactics are working and what's actually doing things, we have to look at rankings. So rankings are important for the agency more than the business owner or the person doing the SEO, I should say. And reviews are important because we've seen businesses that rank and they don't have a good review profile and their phone doesn't ring. So like that's essential to monitor as well. And then I would say like any changes to your listing is another thing that I would monitor regularly. So we have seen, unfortunately, like things like sabotage where like people will go and edit the primary category on your listing and then your rankings will tank. So stuff like that, you definitely want to know if that ever happens.
Cool. Brilliant. So that's the monitoring part. We've got, there's no name here. It's a picture of a person without a name. Is there a tool to show why a listing is performing poorly?
Well, I mean, BrightLocal has tools that do audits. I'll plug you guys. But like not really, because in order to know if a listing was performing poorly, you'd kind of need like data around, you need like Google Analytics or Google business profile insights, whatever that's called now, to look at. And you obviously can't see that data for like competitors, right? Like you don't know how many calls your competitors are getting. So that's again where I would probably default to rankings, because we use, I know, Places Scout for some ranking tracking, and we use BrightLocal as well. And one of the things that Places Scout does is like allows you to sort your competitors by who has the most top 3 rankings. So I look at that a lot, and I'm like, who is the dominant one in this market based on that? And that's a helpful thing to know.
Just to follow up on that, so if you're using the local search audit in BrightLocal, so that will look at your competitor set, and it will look at the most obvious and prominent parts of the business profile, so you can compare. Also, the geo rank tracker is quite useful for that, to see, so you can see which of your competitors are having the most visibility. So that is useful.
You guys have like the category comparisons too, right? I think there's in there.
There's so many things. You've got to get in that tool and press all the buttons. Basically, it just does all the things, doesn't it? But you have to use your brain. There is no magic, run it through this tool, it will do this. But obviously being able to process stuff at scale using a tool is very, very helpful. Let's have a little look. Oh, this comes up a lot actually. And I would love to hear from you about this, Joy. If a business provides services, not products, can we utilize the product section to display main services with images and descriptions? And can I throw a little bit into that as well, please? When Google changed the product section, so it had to comply with the ads terms and conditions, did that change anything with regard to people that were using it to add their services? Did they all get, what's it called when you get, it says that it's chucked your product out and it's not showing it anymore?
Yeah, I know. I think, Claire, you had some examples, right? But we didn't see any with our clients where they got like products denied. I think, actually, I take that back. I think we had it happen a couple times, but not widespread. So you can still absolutely do that. As far as I know, Google has no issue with it. Again, they don't do a whole lot. Like that's the thing we found with that product study that Colin did. Like, they're pretty, they look nice, so do it, but like don't expect, you're going to add products and then tomorrow your phone's going to start ringing more.
Yeah,
that doesn't happen.
Yeah, use it to take up some space and to look nice. So yeah, go ahead and add your services. Keep it evergreen, because you're not going to want to keep changing.
Sure.
Right, let's have a little look here. There's one about verification. I feel like we've covered that. This is just a little idiosyncrasy from Jean-Sebastien. When you create a GBP, you cannot use more than one address line and have to stuff the suite number all in one line. Is it worth the trouble to go back later and correct the format?
Interesting. I feel like I've not seen that. Like I usually can get the second line to trigger, so that's interesting.
He's saying idiosyncratic formatting that Canada Post demands.
Interesting. I haven't run into that, but I wouldn't worry. Like Google's pretty good nowadays. Like whether you use 1 line or 2, I always say use 2 lines, but like regardless of what you do, they're really good at understanding locations, like way better than they were when I started in this industry. It was horrific. So yeah, I wouldn't stress about it.
Okay, let's have a little look. Question about photos from Rob. Is there any way to delete old Google photos that are auto-attached to your Google business profile? And can you prevent users from uploading photos to your business profile?
I loved your tweet the other day, Claire, about your photos that you were like adding of yourself to businesses. I did that with my husband once. I took a picture of him in a pool and I was like, you're going to be the new cover photo for this business because they don't have one. But short answer, no, you can't prevent somebody from adding photos. As far as which photos Google will remove, that's again, it's like reviews, right? It's frustrating. If the photo is not accurate anymore, I have definitely seen cases where they will remove it. So like if it's like you've completely changed the look of your building and your building no longer looks how it did before, like cases like that, then you may have some success getting rid of them. Your first step would be to flag them. If that doesn't work, contact support. But if you're just like, oh, this photo's low quality or I don't like it, you're not going to likely have any success.
Cool, brilliant, thank you. Don't forget to upvote questions. Please read through the questions. And if there are any ones that you're going, yeah, I want that answered, then please upvote it. And it'll come to the top and it will make it easier for me to find the good ones. Please, thank you. This is one from Jean-Sebastian again, talking about categories. How tightly should you control your category? In landscaping, it's common for a business to have several very different services that they expect to rank for, such as turf laying and stone pavement. They sound like great categories, don't they, those? Yeah,
no, absolutely. You'd want to add them all, again, as long as they're relevant. But sometimes it gets like kind of interesting. We found some cases where like the categories that Google is showing, and again, this is where like I think Claire, BrightLocal's tool will actually tell you like which categories are being utilized by the top ranking businesses. So when you do that scan, you can easily see, oh, I need this category. And sometimes it's weird. Like, so we had Christmas light installation is a service that one of our clients offers in the winter. So they go and they put Christmas lights in your house, and I pay them to do my house every year. It's fantastic. And there was no category for that. Like, there's no like Christmas light installation category. So the category Google wants is Christmas shop. And I'm like, they're not a Christmas shop. But we definitely added that category to their listing because you need it to rank for Christmas queries. So it's like, you got to kind of do what you got to do. So sometimes I think it's totally fine to add that if that's the necessary category that's Google's looking for. And especially if they don't have a category for whatever business type you have.
And also, when you publish your new category, I mean, it does change. We get new categories being added and taken away all the time. So you never know, there could be like an even more niche but random but very relevant to what you do category popping up. So it's worth looking at that. Okay, we have one about suspensions here from Jolene. So what is your recommendation when a client's profile has been suspended for being spammy, but no amount of changes will get Google to reinstate it?
My hunch, and this is a hunch because it's like there's again so many things, but it's probably the account. So usually with like suspensions is one of two things. Either Google doesn't like the business, so they don't think you exist where you say you exist, or you're not allowed to have a listing. You know, like if you're a service area business, we dealt with, I think, like 50 suspensions that happened for a chain right around Christmas time. It's lovely for a service area business. And a lot of the cases were like, they weren't supposed to have listings. Like they were creating listings when they weren't allowed them. So, you know, that's one option. But if you're like, no, this is a real business, a real location, they don't have like, you know, 3 locations for the same business, and you're sure that's the case, then it's likely the accounts, because accounts can get suspended. I've seen, and it doesn't matter how like good of a person you are or like what you're doing. Like I saw a level 10 local guide, and I hate saying local guide levels because they don't really matter for anything. But this guy in particular was like a Mapmaker regional lead back when Mapmaker was a thing. He had like, I think 100,000 edits that published on Google Maps. Like this guy is like, he knows his stuff, and he had his account blacklisted. So like it can literally happen to anybody. So don't think you've done anything wrong. But if that's the case, then the only way around it usually is to either get Google to like reinstate your account, which is difficult, or create a new account and start over kind of thing. And like you'll get your reviews back and stuff, but depends on a variety of factors. Again, go to the Google Business Profile community. God, that's a mouthful. And post there if you're not sure. And like knowing specifics, it's a little easier to give advice.
Should people check who has access? Is that a good idea? Is check who is the user of the listing? Maybe like screenshot it so you can, you know, you ask questions. Who is this? Who is this? Who is this? Why have they got access? Because if one of those got a suspension, could it affect your listing and it was an agency or a person you gave access to a year ago?
Yeah, it's like one of the most common things we see is like, you know, some agency you hired 4 years ago and then fired, and they're still on your listing and they get an account suspension and you're screwed now. So like you do not want a lot of people on your listing. Like use your current SEO, you're the owner or whatever, but like you shouldn't have like 15 people managing your listing. All
right, so that's a job for everyone today. As like, I know everyone's going to have a load of takeaways, but probably the first thing is go in and see who actually has access to your listing, and then you might not be having so many suspension problems. We have not got long. I think we've got about 5 minutes left, so please ask any more questions, or better still, go in and see which ones are already exist and upvote the ones that you really want to get answered, please. Let's have a little look here. I'll just do a little song. Okay, services again. Suspensions are hard to navigate, yes. Oh, good one. Ian, thank you. Where do you think Google is going by sunsetting the Google Business app and moving to managing listings through Maps and Search? Thanks, Ian.
Yeah, I don't think it's like really anything mystical. I think there's nobody used it. Like it's one of those things. Well, sorry, Claire. Other than Claire, but it didn't get wide adoption, right? Like, I mean, if I was to poll my clients on how many of them use the Google Business app, like nobody used it. So that's usually what happens with Google with apps. You know, if they don't get used, if it's not a feature that is widely used. That's the same with the short name, right? The short name, when they depreciated that, everyone was like, oh no, it's this cute little bit. Nobody used it. So it's like, if nobody uses it, Google's not going to keep it around and invest time into, and apps are expensive to maintain and keep bugs out.
Oh, Randy uses the app. Randy,
sorry, guys.
Let's start a petition. It's too late now. There's no point.
I was going to say the users that are coming to this webinar are probably not the average business owner. But yeah, the average like mom and pop shop, like that doesn't know anything about SEO.
Let's have a little look. Oh, this is nice, Steve. If you've got a number of offices in a small service area, like about 5 or 6 mile radius, are you likely to be competing against yourself?
Most industries, yes. I'd say there's some exceptions like dentists where you have like, you know, a dentist office on every corner. So like you're definitely going to run into that regardless. But in most industries, yeah, you don't, like if you're looking to expand, we have a franchise that we work with and they're expanding like crazy all over the US. And like they have us help them pick their locations. So they're like, hey, we're going to expand to Oklahoma City. We want 2 locations. Tell me where to put them. So that's something that like, you know, if you can get good at figuring out that kind of stuff, how to keep things from competing, that'll really help you long term.
Cool, brilliant, thank you. Good one on call tracking. Would you use a tracking phone number as the main phone number?
100%. Yeah, we do that for everybody. GMB Insights, again, GBP Insights, whatever you want to call it, they are very inaccurate. So I don't like depending on those. So I think using a call tracking number is the best way to actually know what calls you're getting. You can utilize things like call recordings to see if they're quality calls, like what happens to the calls, all that kind of stuff. A huge fan of CallRail. That's usually my go-to. And you can, don't worry about NAP consistency stuff. You can still put your real phone number as the secondary number and you have nothing to worry about.
Cool, I'm going to go to the top and I'm trying to filter out the ones which have got lots of votes but are relevant. So we've got, will Google be offering the chat method of support again soon? Look into your crystal ball there, please, Joy.
It's already up. They already have chat support back and phone support. That being said, you have to go through certain options to get them. So like depending on what boxes you check, you will get chat support. And if you don't check those boxes, you will get email support. But it's already back. So it came back recently, like in the last month, I want to say.
Okay, cool. From Jeff, does Google give preference to location-based businesses over service-based businesses in map results? And what are some tips to increasing map rank for service-based businesses?
Yeah, like I don't think they do. Like we kind of touched on this earlier. There was that thread at the local search forum where people were convinced that like, you know, not having a map pin was like severe disadvantage. That being said, we have so many service area business clients that have their address hidden that rank just fine. Like I really don't think it should be a hurdle that you're like stressing about. As far as expanding your radius, like there's only so much you can expand. So where this gets kind of complicated is what I call explicit terms. So plumber Dallas is an explicit term because it's got the word Dallas in there. You can definitely dominate Dallas, like regardless of what type of business you are. But if you're talking just plumber, because of the Vicinity update, you can't dominate anymore for that type of keyword. So you are limited to a much smaller radius than you used to be able to dominate for pre-November of last year. So that update was really significant for that. So my kind of go-to is, you know, focus on the keywords where you can actually expand, which would be explicit keywords and or long tail keywords that nobody else is targeting.
Brilliant. We are pretty much out of time. So we have one more question here. Now, listen, is there a short answer for this one? What is the best way to rename an existing business? Because we'd like current customers to still find the business when they're looking for directions. That's from Ethan.
I think we published this. I'll have to check our blog. I have a rebranding checklist, and I want to say I put it on our website. So I think it's on our blog. You can check on the Sterling Sky blog. But we do have a checklist on like how to rebrand your business, something we run across quite a bit. The main steps are, logo on your website, make sure you update your site, update the Secretary of State if you can, if you're in the US. If you're not in the US, whatever the equivalent is, like your business registration, the BBB. And then as far as citations go, I would say, like, again, focus on the ones that actually rank for your brand. Do a branded search on Google, worry about those ones first.
Okay, brilliant. That has been fantastic. So we did go through, there are still lots of questions popping in. So thank you all for coming and for all of those brilliant questions. We did answer as many as we can. There were so many, and they were really, really good and useful ones. And so thank you very, very, very much, Joy, for sharing all of your knowledge and your loveliness with us today. So
thanks for having me.
It was really, really nice. I hope we can do it again. So BrightLocal, we do have a very full schedule of webinars and the local search clinics coming up. You can find that on the site. And we have also got a charity fundraiser for Ukraine coming up. So please do sign up for that when we announce the details of it, because that will be a brilliant, brilliant event. And I think we're done. I think that's it. It's a bit sad to go. I've had a lovely time.
No, I'm a little sad.
Should we just do it again? We'll do it again.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. Yeah.
Brilliant. So thank you everyone for coming. That was fantastic. Thank you.